presentation today is about navigating cancer with better nutrition. So to get started, just in terms of nutrition, eating a healthy diet and being physically active are really important in the prevention of cancer. But it's also important for people who are cancer survivors and after their diagnosis with cancer. So throughout the recovery and after the cancer treatment, we do have a big emphasis on nutrition. And we also want to encourage maintaining a balance of quality of life as well. So this pictured here, we call this the typical Western style diet or the standard American diet. And if you see in the parentheses there, it's SAD for short, the acronym. So basically what this is a typical American diet characterized by overconsumption of energy or calories, with a lot of excess added sugars, a lot of saturated fats. Generally speaking, most Americans get only 12% of their calories from plant-based foods. They usually eat less than 1 cup of whole fruit per day. And they exceed the dietary guidelines of no more than 7 to 10% of daily calories from saturated fat. This diet is high in calories, it's high in fat, it's low in fiber, low in fruits and vegetables, it's pro-inflammatory, and just generally overall low nutrition quality. So really kind of living up to the acronym of SAD, unfortunately. And these trends really have an impact on the nutrient intake and status throughout life for all of us. So there's an organization called the American Institute for Cancer Research, or AICR for short, and they do a tremendous amount of research and the impact of diet and lifestyle on cancer. So they put together a list of recommendations to kind of use as a blueprint for reducing cancer risk with factors that you can actually modify yourself. I mean, there's many factors that go into the diagnosis of cancer, but these are things that you can actually, take control of. So, following each of these recommendations definitely offers some sort of protective benefit, but generally following everything as an approach, more of a lifestyle, really has a better effect and kind of, applying everything as a whole. So this looks at behaviors of diet, physical activity, and other factors that can be considered an overall way of life. So generally, having a healthy weight, try to keep your weight within the healthy range and avoiding weight gain, being physically active, trying to get more activity in your life, eating a diet rich in whole grains, limiting consumption of fast foods and processed foods, limiting consumption of red and processed meats, sugar, just added sugars and sugar sweetened drinks, limiting alcohol consumption. We don't recommend the use of the supplements for cancer prevention. We try to encourage getting the nutrients that you need from a whole food diet. And then after the cancer diagnosis, we do recommend following these recommendations as well, as people are able to tolerate it. Okay. There we go. All right. So, eating well throughout cancer and your diagnosis, there's many factors that influence the development of cancer. Over the last 25 years, they've done a tremendous amount of research on the impact of diet, physical activity, body weight. These are all considered risk factors for developing certain types of cancers. And your body has the ability to resist cancer in many ways, and the diet can help by having anti-cancer effects. So promoting a healthful lifestyle, including following a healthy diet. Study after study suggests that a plant-based diet, one that's rich in vegetables, fruits, whole grains, legumes, beans, and low in red meat, and especially processed meat and alcohol, can protect and fight against cancer, and actually even lower the risk for many other chronic diseases like heart disease or diabetes. Choosing a diet that puts plant foods first also supports a healthy weight, which is, also one of the risk factors for cancer development. So trying to eat a diet focusing on plant foods to reduce the risk of cancer, increasing your fiber intake. The recommendation is to try to get at least 25 to 30 grams a day from food, fiber from food. So what does that mean? It means whole grains, fruits and vegetables, nuts, beans, plant-based proteins. These are all wonderful sources of fiber. And then just, managing your portion sizes for a healthy weight. And you want to try to have a balanced diet. So you'll see in the side a picture of a plate that has a good way of managing portions. And we'll talk a little bit about that later as well. You want to try to do a more moderate amount of animal proteins. So, and choosing lean proteins like seafood, poultry, dairy, and really try to limit the red meat. It's more on occasion. And also limiting, as I mentioned, alcoholic drinks and processed meat, and trying to incorporate physical activities. The recommendations try to do at least 30 minutes, 5 days a week. And just keep in mind, it doesn't mean all at once. You can even break it up 10 minutes here, 5 minutes there. It all counts throughout the course of the day. So what is a plant-based diet? We know it has a lot of benefits, but what is it exactly? Does it mean a vegetarian diet? So no, it doesn't actually mean that. What it means is just eating mostly plant foods. So fruits, vegetables, grains, ideally more whole grains, again, nuts, seeds, legumes. And some examples of these types of diets, there's a variety of diets that you can use as an approach to plant-based diet. So flexitarian is one. And what that means is just that maybe you're kind of call it like a part-time vegetarian, where maybe there are some days where you follow a more vegetarian approach, but then, on occasion eat chicken or fish or meat. A pescatarian diet is basically someone who only eats fish as their animal source of protein. A vegetarian diet certainly counts as well. This does include eggs and dairy typically, or you can choose not to include those animal sources and follow a vegan approach. You can use the AICR American plate, which I'll show you again in a little bit. And again, it's just a way to approach the balance of meats and lean proteins and animal proteins in the diet. Or the Mediterranean diet is another popular one. It's actually been shown in medical journals to be one of the best diet approaches there are. So that's another thing to consider. So plant-based diets, they have an impact on cancer. So dietary patterns emphasizing plant foods, they provide vitamins, minerals, and they have protective and naturally occurring plant substances called phytochemicals that can actually help the body defend against cancer and other diseases. They do this by providing an antioxidant activity. So antioxidants prevent or slow damage to cells caused by free radicals. They have anti-cancer enzymes. These are bioactive compounds that are found in fruits and vegetables, and they protect against cancer. Examples are things like cruciferous vegetables like broccoli that boost the activity of detoxifying enzymes in the liver. And they act as cancer inhibitors. So the phytochemicals found in fruits and vegetables protect cells from mutations that can trigger something that's called carcinogenesis. So it's just the way that the cells change that can cause cancer. So what are phytochemicals and antioxidants? These are naturally occurring plant chemicals. They're what provide the plants with their color, their smell, their flavor. There's many naturally occurring substances in plant foods that have the power to protect the body's cells from damage. So phytochemicals are plant metabolites that offer oxidant properties that can lower oxidative stress, reducing DNA damage. So they also ward off cancer cell growth. So some of these nutrients and natural phytochemicals seek out toxins and try to usher them out of the body before they can cause cell damage that lead to cancer. And others seem to make it easier for the body to make and repair at the cellular level. Some may help stop cancer cells from reproducing. So even after a cell begins to experience damage that can lead to cancer, what you eat and drink and how you live can still help short circuit the cancer process. And you can get these in your diet by eating a balanced diet that has all these wonderful plant foods that we're talking about. So the different colors of vegetables and fruits offer different phytochemical properties. The best approach, you see the list here of all the different phytochemicals and the different colors of fruits that you can eat to accomplish them. Really, the best approach is just to try to eat a variety of fruits and vegetables each day, all different colors of fruits and vegetables, vary them from day to day. And then this way you're able to really obtain all the different phytochemicals that are offered in these wonderful foods. So here's a look at sort of that plate method that I've mentioned, a way to kind of help approach meal planning, to help lower your cancer risk. So if you see here, you have about a quarter of the plate is your protein. Ideally more of that lean protein, like the fish and the chicken, dairy. You can even put a plant protein in there, like beans or lentils. You have a quarter of the plate for whatever starchy food or grain that you're eating. Ideally, you want to choose more whole grains. So a half a cup to a cup of something like brown rice or quinoa, and half of your plate can be vegetables. It could be salad, it could be cooked vegetables, it could be two different kinds of vegetables, kind of mix it up to help promote eating, reaching the vegetables that you need. And then you see here a little small cup of fruit on the side. It's another way to achieve your goals for the day, and trying to drink mostly water in place of things like sugar sweetened beverages like sodas and iced teas and juices and those types of things. And just think about this. So take a look at this. And how does your plate, what you eat daily, compare to this? Does your plate look like this? And, we'll kind of come back to that in a little bit. So what do you actually eat? So you want to try to choose nutrient-dense foods, concentrate on high protein choices. So having a variety of non-starchy vegetables in that half a plate there, even some fruits, the lean proteins like the salmon you see pictured, or even beans or edamame or tofu is also a great option. And then the whole grains there in the corner. You could choose milk products as well. They actually are a wonderful source of protein too. So things like yogurt, especially Greek yogurt, can provide a great amount of protein. And this is just a kind of a guide, easy way to sort of think about how to go about planning your day and your meals. Instead of having to think each time, what am I supposed to eat? You could kind of just look at your plate and figure out portions accordingly. So for the recommendations are to try to eat at least 5 servings, which is about 2.5 cups of non-starchy vegetables and fruits. You want, again, trying to choose a variety. And if you could eat more than 2.5 cups, that's even better. If you could shoot for 10 servings a day, that's wonderful. But of course, day-to-day things vary. We all have that in our lives. So at least if you could try to get those 5, it's a good goal for each day. So what does that mean? It's about maybe a small or medium fruit like an apple or pear or peach. It's about a half a cup of chopped or canned or even frozen vegetables or fruit, or half a cup of cooked fruit. Now, if you're eating leafy greens or raw vegetables, the portion is a little bit bigger. Just, think about leafy greens in particular when there's a lot of water content in them. So in this case, 2 cups of leafy greens count towards 1 serving. So if you're doing a salad or, some spinach salad or something like that, you do want to try to add a little bit more. If it's cooked, then you could stick with the half a cup. So for grains, you want to try to choose more whole grains. These are nutrient-rich foods. Try to choose more whole grains. At least half of your grain should be whole. So it's not to say that you can never eat a slice of white bread or a white rice or a cracker, But if at least half of the grains you eat throughout the day are whole grains, it's a good way to approach it. So whole grains are things like oatmeal, brown rice, whole grain cereals, like things like a shredded wheat, barley, quinoa, wild rice, farro. There's a ton of options out there that are all very delicious. And you really want to try to choose less often those processed refined grains. So these are things like the white rice, the crackers, the sugary treats like cookies and croissants and all of those processed and refined grains. So a serving of grains is about one slice of whole wheat bread, let's say, or a half a cup of any of those other grains that we mentioned, the brown rice, the farro, the oatmeal. The goal is to try to get at least 25 to 30 grams a day, as we mentioned before. So a good way to go about this is try to get at least 3 grams of fiber per serving. And looking at labels, at the back, you could see what's, you'll look at the serving size and it'll tell you how many grams of fiber are included in that. So if you're choosing something that has 3 grams of fiber per serving, that's considered a good, high fiber food. So fats are also an important part of your daily diet. You do want to try to choose more unsaturated fats. So things like omega-3s, that are found in things like extra virgin olive oil, avocado oil. It's not listed here, but, even salmon, I'm sure you've heard have omega-3s. Nuts and seeds have good healthy fats. So, maybe you put some chia seeds in your oatmeal or sprinkle some flax seeds onto your salad. A slice, quarter of an avocado. These are all wonderful fats to include in the diet. And choosing more of these oversaturated fats that are found in things like butter or red meats are a better way to balance it out. So just in general, you try to get up to 20 to 25% of your total calories. So if you eat a typical 1800 calorie diet, it's about 4 to 5 grams of saturated fat is what you want to try to limit it to. But choosing more of those good, lean, unsaturated fats are a better option. And then as far as protein, you do want to try to choose lean protein. So, as mentioned, chicken, turkey, eggs, fish. You could do low-fat dairy as well. For ground turkey or even chicken, look for white or breast meat because the dark meat is a little bit higher in saturated fat. Fish and seafoods, so the salmon we talked about are also high in omega-3, sardines, trout, halibut, whatever kind of fish you enjoy eating. It's a great option to include as a lean protein source. And of course, you can always try to choose plant proteins. Maybe there are certain days where you don't eat meat at all and you try to do more plant options. So something like a tofu or, black beans or lentils or chickpeas. These are all good protein replacements for the animal sources, plant sources of protein. And they're going to give you a little bit of fiber too to help you reach your daily fiber goals. You do want to try to limit your consumption of red meat to less than about 12 to 18 ounces cooked per week. I mean, even less is better. So if you think about what that means, let's say you eat about a 4-ounce piece of steak. And what is that? That's like probably like the size of my hand or like a deck of cards. So if you eat that 3 times a week, you're already kind of meeting that red meat sort of quota. So it's really try to, best to reduce that. And as far as processed meats, you do want to try to stay away from them. The less, the better. Even small amounts of processed meats are linked to higher cancer risk. So also just thinking about portion control, we're talking about a lot of good, healthy foods, but you do want to watch portions so that you're not gaining excess weight. Trying to maintain a healthy weight is important as well. So we were talking about the portions of the chicken or fish. So the palm of your hand is a good guide for that, that gives you an idea of about 3 to 5 ounces, or think about the size of a deck of cards. No limits on the non-starchy vegetables. So if you're still hungry, it's always a good way to add, they're low calorie. You can add more to your plate and it helps fill you up because it has that fiber in there. So at least half of the plate is a good way to approach it. The grains, half a cup to a cup, and oils and fats, we say 1 teaspoon per meal. But even thinking about the nuts, the nuts are good, healthy fats and a great snack and very filling and have a lot of fiber. But try to keep the portions to about 1/4 cup and once per day. Or again, if you want to use your hand as a rule of thumb, kind of think that little pocket that's just sort of right there in the little divot. That's a good way to measure a portion size of nuts so that you're not overeating and contributing to excess calories in the diet. That can also contribute to weight gain, because even though you're eating a healthy diet, we don't necessarily want to overdo it either. And also trying to choose, really nutrient dense foods. So if you think about that slide that had all the pictures of the, the vegetables and the lean proteins, those things are also very satisfying. They keep you fuller longer, they have fiber, they have the protein stays in your stomach, so it's digest a little slower. So you don't feel as hungry as quickly. If you're eating something like this, it may look like it's pretty light. But these have a lot of refined carbs that digest really quickly. And then what you find is that you're hungry very often, and it can often lead to overeating. This is more of the approach of that standard American diet we looked at earlier, the SAD. And then also you're not getting the nutrients, those vitamins, those minerals, the protein, the fiber, and those important phytochemicals that we talked about earlier. A better option is to try to balance your meals and eat good, fulfilling items. And you see this lovely egg frittata there with a good portion of vegetables mixed in with a little bit of side of fruit. We have this great salmon dish for lunch, with some healthy fats with the avocados and some beans to offer some extra protein and fiber and some good vegetables. Some apples with a little bit of peanut butter, you're getting the nuts and your fruit serving, and then a good healthy salad with some beans for a protein and again, extra fiber at night. And you'll find that you feel much more satisfied and you'll be able to help maintain a good healthy weight as well. And then eating on that regular schedule just kind of helps prevent you from feeling too hungry throughout the course of the day. So I asked you earlier to think about, how does your plate compare to this? And if your plate doesn't look like this, that's okay. Maybe think about where you have room for change, or what are some things that you might want to change. Sometimes choosing just one thing, making small gradual changes can be easier to manage, and they contribute to making long-term lasting change over time that really, help improve the overall lifestyle. So, maybe your plate doesn't look like this today, but perhaps you just pick one thing that you want to focus on and kind of build from there. So perhaps it's considering adding more of those non-starchy vegetables. Maybe that's a goal that you would like to include. We talked about how helpful they are in the diet, how all those phytochemicals and, from the different colors. So here's just some tips to think about, some ways to kind of increase the vegetable and fruit intake. So maybe challenge yourself to eat a different color every day. Maybe Monday's a red day and Wednesday's a green day and Thursday's an orange day. And you try to include at least one of those colors in your diet on those days. Or see if you could eat the whole rainbow over the course of the week. Think about adding it into foods that you're already having. So we saw that lovely egg frittata earlier that had the vegetables mixed in. You can, if you're doing a pasta dish, you can add vegetables to that. It also helps cut down on the portion of the starchy food in there to help manage your portions. You can put it on top of your pizza if you're treating yourself to pizza, throw it into your yogurt. So it's just thinking about ways to add to what you're already having. And then as far as the way of cooking vegetables, making them tasty is going to be a way that's going to promote you wanting to eat them more often. So roasting, just putting them in your oven, stick them in the oven at 375 degrees with a little bit of olive oil and a little salt and pepper. And it really brings out the taste of these wonderful foods. So they start to caramelize, and it just enhances the natural sweetness. So maybe you don't like broccoli, I don't know, boiled if you've had it that way, but if you stick it in the oven and toast it, roast it, you may just enjoy it more than you think. You can have them ready, just chopped up in the fridge for dippers, just maybe you're doing a prep day, where on Sundays, for example, you prep some chopped up vegetables, and you could keep them in the fridge and on hand and just use like your favorite dip, something like a hummus or a low fat or fat free dressing are a good way to enhance the flavor and just have them handy as a little snack. You could use smoothies, so that's a great way to add to your fruit and vegetable intake. Try to use, you do want to watch your portions of fruit. So I would say like a half a cup of fruit in a smoothie, and then try to do more of the non-starchy vegetables in the mix. And then to ramp it up even more, adding something that has protein. So like a yogurt, Greek yogurt is a great way to add a little protein. Again, it's going to make you feel satisfied because you have that combination of protein and, the vegetables in there to help you feel like you've, eaten. And using spices to make things a little, we talked about roasting, but using spices in foods can also help make them a little bit more appealing. And then you can use things that have cancer fighting properties. Things like cinnamon, for example, or turmeric are great cancer fighting spices, or even things like garlic. Adding those into your dishes, are just going to enhance the cancer fighting properties of your diet. So just to recap, what we talked about, we said eat a mostly plant-based diet. So what is this? A diet rich in whole grains, vegetables, fruits, beans, lentils. Eat a rainbow of colors. So eat the rainbow, as we like to say. So every day you're trying to incorporate various colors into the diet, increasing your fiber intake. We talked about the goals, and making at least half of your grains whole. I do want to just say, if you are not a big vegetable eater, I would suggest just starting gradually, starting with, one serving a day, just increasing slowly. If you don't eat a lot of fiber normally, and then all of a sudden you increase your fiber too fast, it can cause a little bit of gas and discomfort. So, maybe take it slow if that's the case. Little by little, day by day, you just increase it each day and see what you can, if you can get up to that goal. Smaller, moderate amounts of animal-based proteins, lean proteins, choosing those more often, occasionally with the red meat, limiting the processed meat, and including plant-based proteins. And then think about using that plate method to just kind of help with meal planning and portions, and using, the cooking methods and the spices and the herbs to really enhance those phytochemical properties of your meals.